good evening. It's Monica from Life is Art, and it's Wednesday. Let's create. I am just finding my video on the side. We are going to be doing something fun today. We are going to be making a floating layer Z-fold card, and I'm just going to plug my phone in. Sorry, jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. And, oh, it doesn't want to plug. There we go. Just because I don't want to accidentally run out of power partway through. I forgot to plug it in earlier. And we don't want to have that happen. So how are you doing this evening? If you're popping on to watch, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later on replay, you can say replay. We are going to be, as I said, making a floating layer Z-fold card. It's a fun card to have in your arsenal of fun folds, especially when we do our 30-minute card making stash dash on Tuesday night and we get that one that says Z-fold or other fancy fold, and you're always going, oh gosh, what am I gonna do now? Hey Ellie, nice to see you're watching. Good evening. So the papers and stamps that I'm going to be using tonight are from the current special that is being offered on the website, and it's called Daisy Daisy. And here is the beautiful stamp set that goes with this collection. It's got some lovely florals happening here. So there's a very large daisy that's sort of an outline drawing of a daisy. And then there is a solid daisy. Then there's some even little tinier ones. There's a cluster of 3 and a single one. And then there's the centers for the daisies. Pardon me, there's also this lovely pair of leaves, a little cluster of even smaller leaves, and then this nice little bouquet of daisies as well. There's sentiments, life is beautiful, you're amazing, wonderful, good times. Then there's also this row of little dots going along here to create a nice little border. There's an arrow. So lots of fun things on this stamp set. And let me show you the papers in this collection. So there is this beautiful stripe. Isn't that gorgeous? And it's got evergreen and clover and ballerina and flamingo and white daisy, and it's just gorgeous. There's a lovely zip strip on here with leafies. The back side of this is a very pretty ballerina pattern. I don't know if the color is going to show up well on my screen, but it's a beautiful soft pink pattern. And then we also have, let me just kind of lay these out so you can see them. So we've got our stripe, we've got the little floral, then there's also this one here, and this is kind of pretty. It's a little diamond pattern, tone on tone with clover and evergreen. And then itty bitty teeny tiny daisies, and some are white and some are the pink, even though they might not show up. And then there's this beautiful zip strip with daisies all the way across. The back side of that pattern paper is this really pretty clover check, and that is gorgeous and very springy. And then of course we have our lovely, what we call a hero paper with the gorgeous daisies all over it. I love that some are solid, some are pink, some are white, some are line drawn. Then there's leaves, some are solid, some are line drawn. And then there's smaller ones, again, that are solid or line drawn. I like that variety. It kind of gives your eye lots to look at. And then there's a nice black and white check zip strip. The back side of this is this all over daisy pattern in a smaller scale. And so this is a really pretty collection, sort of looking towards spring and the summer and just getting ready for all those good garden-y things that are happening. And then, of course, there's a sticker sheet that you can get with this collection. And it has a couple of nice sticker borders that are really fun design. Then there's lots of florals and leaves. There's a bicycle. You know the whole song, Daisy, Daisy. It's not a bicycle built for 2, but it is a lovely green bicycle with a pink seat. And then there's banners, there's sentiments here, happy life, sweet moments, together time. We've got beautiful, love this life, so much fun. There's a watering can, there's a wreath, there's tags, oh happy day, living the dream, today was the best, we had the best time, beauty and bloom. And then there's a whole bunch down here at the bottom. Enjoying today, memories to keep, cherish this, full of life. This makes me happy, and it's got the little smile, the colon and the bracket that makes the little smiley face. Smiles all around, so lucky, nothing better, lovely you. And isn't that just pretty? I love these leafy moments there. And so this is a special that's available online right now, and you can currently get the coordinating cardstock and the pattern paper, I believe, and also the stamp set. There is also in this collection a set of thin cuts, a set of everything in the collection. So there's like a product bundle, and then there's also a workshop bundle. And those items, the thin cuts and the bundles, require a pre-order. And so if you're interested in those, the pre-order started on Monday and it goes through until Sunday. So you'll want to get those if you're interested in it before Sunday, so that you know you're going to get it once they come into stock. Okay, but the paper, stickers, as long as they haven't sold out in the last couple hours, the paper and stickers and the stamp set and the coordinating cardstock are all there. So that's what I got. I got those items, and I'm looking forward to creating with them. You might even notice that Julia helped me do my nails, so I'm all matchy-matchy with the paper today. Gotta love that. Hey, Heather, nice to see you're watching. And Karen is here. Joanne, hello, Carol. Everybody's popping on. Yes, these are really pretty patterns, aren't they, Karen? I was kind of pleasantly surprised. When I first saw it, I was like, woo. And then I was like, meh. And then I saw the patterns up close, and I was like, oh, I do like these. They're very lovely. The zip strip reminds me of the slim stencil used with the piggy. Yes, that one where it's kind of the interlocking circles is very much like that stencil, the layering stencil. Yep. Where did it go? Oh, the one on the sticker sheet. That's the zip strip. This one here, it's very similar in feel, isn't it? It's just a little bit different design, but still those interlocking circles. All right, so let's get started on our card. We're going to start with a piece of the Flamingo cardstock. And this has been cut to, let me just double check, 8.5 by 5.5. And I will post the measurements when I post the pictures. So 8.5 by 5.5, and we're going to do some scoring on here because we're going to create a Z fold. So let me grab my ruler and my bone folder. So we are going to score this, and of course I didn't write down the measurements. At 2 1/8. So we're going to score at 2 1/8, which is halfway between 2 and 2 1/4. So that's 2 1/8. And then we're going to move over and we're going to score it at 4 1/4, which will give us our normal center fold for our card. Okay? And then, so let's go ahead and fold these. So I'm using the true color side, which is the darker side of the Flamingo, and on the back side is the paler side. And we're actually going to put our spot to right on the back side. So that part will still get used, still get seen. And so let's fold on that center line first. Make sure everything lines up before we make our nice crisp fold. And then this side, we're going to close it and then fold this one back. And that's going to create that Z fold effect. And this is a super simple way to make a fun fold or fancy fold card, is just by making that traditional Z fold. If you look at it from the bottom, you can see where it gets the name. I imagine that if you are south of the border, you're going to call this a Z fold. But in Canada, we call it Z fold. Hey, Mom, nice to see you're watching. So there we have the base for the card. Now we're just going to do some adding. So the first thing I want to do is I want to bring in some pattern paper. And I chose that gorgeous Daisy Hero paper. And what I did was I actually cut my height first across my pattern paper. And then I trimmed out the dimensions that I needed so that my pattern would travel all the way across. So I cut my height first, which is 5 3/8 high. And then I have two 2-inch panels. And then this last one, I'm pretty sure is 4 1/8. Yes, 4 1/8. Okay, but I like that it kind of continues across. So I cut my 2, and then 4 1/8 so that the pattern traveled. Let's go ahead and attach these to the card. And if we stopped right here at this point where we add these pattern papers, this is a regular, ordinary Z-fold card. And that is perfectly lovely card to make. But we're going to add just a little bit extra to make it a little bit more exciting. Just because sometimes we need to jazz up those things, right? Maybe we're getting tired of our Z-fold cards. So we want to add a little bit more pizzazz. And we'll get this stuck down. Are you loving this crisp, fresh green? I kind of like the combination of the clover and the evergreen. I kind of wish I had some of these ink colors. The only one I really have is the Flamingo. So you will see that come into play later as we're going along. So we're just centering these. And it's only leaving just a little hint of the pink. And that's okay, because we're going to bring in some pink later with some of the embellishing. And we're going to add the last panel. Now, one thing that I'm going to tell you is I'm adding a little bit of extra adhesive down the center. And that's because we're putting in that floating layer into our Z-fold card. And so I want to make sure that my base pattern paper is stuck down well. Just make sure my patterns match and stick that down. I'm sort of wandering uphill, I can see. Look at, I got a bigger gap down here and a smaller gap up there, but that's just how it's gonna be. Now, let me see. The next thing I want to do is bring in the mechanism to make my floating panel. And for that, I need a piece of cardstock. And I'm just using white because you're not really going to see it. So why use fancy stuff? And this has been cut to 1 inch by 4 inches. And we're going to do some scoring on this. And so I'm just going to line it up on my Versamat, bring my ruler back in, and my bone folder. And we're going to score it on every inch. So we're going to score it at 1 inch. And then we're going to score it at 2 inches. How easy is this? And then we're going to score it at 3 inches. Super simple. We didn't have to make this one hard at all. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in half. So just make sure that everything is straight, because everything works better when it's folded straight. So make sure it's all lined up and then crease it down. And then I'm going to open it back up and I'm going to fold this side in towards the middle. And just make sure it lines up, crease it down, and then we'll fold the left side in towards the middle, line everything up, crease it down, just like that. Okay, so now we can go ahead. This is what it looks like when it's all laid out, and we're going to just fold it in half. Okay, and we're going to have our fold side over here and our open side over here. And what I want to do is grab my liquid glue. You could use adhesive tape, but I'm going to use my liquid glue. So on this side where it opens up, like this, I'm going to apply glue to this little square right here. And now I probably should have done a step in which I, determined the center. So let me just stick my card here. And I could eyeball it, but I'm going to be, responsible. And I'm going to mark the center of the height of my card. So this is 5 1/2, so that's going to put me at 2 3/4. at the center. So if I just line my ruler up on the 2 3/4 line, I'm just going to make a little mark there, and that's not going to be seen because it's going to be hid by our mechanism. I can even take my little mechanism here and line it up on the Versamat and just mark the 1/2 inch mark that's the center. And that way I can line those 2 marks up. Let's make sure we've got enough glue on here because it sat there while I was talking. Okay, so now we've got our fold on this side. We've got our open side over here. We've got our glue right there on the top. And I'm going to, I should have actually done it this way. Let me just open this up and I'll make another mark. I shouldn't have gone ahead with the glue. I should have marked it first. There, now it's got a mark on both sides. Because I actually want to take the gluey part. So we folded it, the open side's over here, and the gluey part we're going to put down. So we're going to line up our 2 marks. And I'm going to leave some space between here and the fold right there, because we have to be able to fold this over and have it sit down nicely. So you can just kind of fold it, and then it'll because it's liquid glue, it'll kind of push it out of the way. We want to make sure we've made it kind of straight and everything lines up. Okay, so now we have our little flappy here on top, but we're going to keep it folded, and we're going to add glue on this side, just in this square that we marked the center of. Okay, so this little square, no glue. This one by the open part, glue. And then we can close this, and it's going to glue itself to that. Now, I'm going to set this aside so that it has a chance to get really good and stuck. I'm going to stick an ink pad on top of it. Let's grab this one. There we go. And it'll have a chance to get good and stuck. While that's happening, let's bring in the parts that we're going to be adding inside. This is going to create the part of the card that is floating. And so this is a piece of the Evergreen cardstock that's 3 inches square. And then I've got a piece of white daisy that has been cut to 2 3/4. So 2 3/4. And what I want to do with these is I'm going to create the floating panel, but I need to trim them down a little bit because, let me see, that's set now for a minute. We've got our little square here, our little thing that's going to create our floating panel, kind of like a pop-up, really. And I want to attach this piece of evergreen so that it's in the diamond position, okay? Now, if I stick it there with the point right like that, and then I try to close it, you can see that I'm going to run into an issue. My diamond is going to hang way over the edge of my card, and it's not going to fit in the envelope, and it's not really going to look very pretty. So what we need to do is we need to do some trimming. Let me bring in my little photo trimmer. And what I want to do for this is I want to hold it on the diagonal like this, so it's a diamond, and I want to line up the top point and the bottom point at the 1 inch mark. So hopefully you can see that on screen. Here's my 1 inch mark. So I'm going to make sure that my top point and my bottom point are both lined up on that. And that's going to give me a straight cut over here. Okay, so just hold that down nicely. Chop. And there's a little triangle we can use to decorate something else later. So now we have created an interesting shape. Is that like a not a quadrilateral? It's a 5-sided shape, like a something. And now when we close it, look at that. Our nice little triangle just comes to the edge here, and it's nice and centered, and it looks really nice, okay? So that's going to look a lot nicer. Now, we also need to trim our little piece of white daisy. So we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to take it on the diamond way, the diagonal, go from corner to corner on that 1 inch line. So don't make the mistake of lining the points up along the cut line. We don't want to make a triangle. We want to put the points on the 1-inch line, just like that. Hold it nice and tight. Shoop. Trim off our little corner. And then these two now fit one inside the other, just like that. Now there's going to be no green here. That's okay. That's what we want. But there will be an equal amount of green all the way around. But let's do a little bit of stamping on here. And I'm going to use the lovely bunch of daisies from the stamp set for this part. Let me just grab a scrap piece of paper. Here's one that I've used before. So it's got some inky goodness on here. And I'm going to grab my intense black ink for this because I'm going to do a little bit of coloring. So I've got my intense black ink. I should probably be using the foamy side of my Versamat, but we'll hope for the best. Gonna ink up my daisies. And what I want to do is kind of stamp off so that most of it is on there. We want to get some of our leaves at the bottom on there. But we're kind of keeping it to the center of that diamond shape, even though we've cut one of the edges off. So give this a nice squish, and hopefully this will be okay, even though I don't have my foamy side up. There, oh, it didn't. It's my table. Let me grab another one. That's not good. I knew that would do that because my table warps. Let me grab another piece. This is why we have a drawer full of scrappy bits. And that was what did I say? 2 3/4. 2 3/4. Usually I have an extra one cut just for that eventuality. 2 3/4. And then we're going to, let me just double check. Yes, that's right. Good remembering me. We're going to trim at the 1-inch mark. We want to make our card look good. Sometimes you have to take a double take. I could have just flipped it over too, really. Didn't think about that at the time. All right, let me grab my Versamat for stamping. I have one Versamat that looks pretty on the back side still. Some of my Versamats have been around for a while, and they don't look so pretty on the back side. This one does. Okay, let's try this again, and I'm actually going to stamp. I'm going to stamp this way, and I'm going to come a little closer to the edge of my table. So hopefully you can still see that. Just because of the nature of my table. My mommy was so lovely and bought me a stamp platform, but I am not used to it yet, and I forget to go ahead and pull it out and use it. And that would really be useful for times such as this. So let's line this up again, and we'll make sure we get good stamping, hopefully. Sometimes on my table it works better to stamp near the edge. That was much better. Not 100%, but much better. Happy with that for now. Alrighty. Gotta love warpy tables. Okay, so we did some stamping. Now we're going to do some coloring. I've got 3 different colors of tri-blend markers here. I'm going to start with the pale pink blend, and I'm going to start with the lightest color. And because we've used our intense black ink, we can just go right ahead and do our coloring. We don't have to worry about our ink moving or doing anything weird. So we'll just go ahead and color these nice and quick. And then I'm going to go to the mid and do about 2/3 of each of the petals with the mid color. We're going to try and kind of make some variation in color here with our coloring today. Like that. And then we're going to switch to the dark of the pale pink blend and just do the inside, sort of half, third to a half of each of the petals. like that. Nice. And then we'll switch to the next one, going back to the light. I love that daisies, you know what? Daisies actually refers to the shape of the flower, not the color, because most people think of white daisies, right? A white daisy with a yellow center, but a daisy is actually classified by the shape. And so you can have daisies in all kinds of colors, which is kind of fun. You could make these any colors you want. That's the great thing about stamping. You can customize and work away to your heart's content. Switching now to the dark. So I'm kind of just repeating the same process for all of these, and I'm moving really quickly. But I find with these markers, you don't have to spend a lot of time to get a nice result. You can just go ahead and color them in. And thank goodness, because, you know, my markering skills are not always the bestest. Is that a word? The bestest? So, just color those and then switch to the mid. I like too that the three colors are all in the same marker. So I don't have to make too many choices. I can just go with whatever's on there. I pop from one to the other, and then the dark. And I'm not doing all the light on all the daisies and then coming back and doing all the mid on all the daisies and then doing the dark. I like to do them one at a time, because if you get your colors, you know, your light, your medium, and your dark on there quick enough, they blend really nice together, and you don't have to go back over it with a blender or with the light color again. You just do it and move on. And so that makes it a little quicker when we're doing a live video and you don't necessarily want to see me color flowers for hours. That rhymes. Flowers for hours. And we'll add our mid color on here. And it's nice to just kind of follow the veins on the flowers when they have them like this. Kind of gives you a good indication of things. And then we move on to the dark. Just for that extra little bit of color. Makes it look so fancy without a lot of work. And then I've also brought in my coral. And I'm just going to take the darkest one of the coral blend and just add some color, kind of dot it on in the centers of these flowers. So just add a little bit of that darkest color on there to kind of punch out the center. There we go. And then I also have the light green blend. And I'm going to use the mid color on the light green to add some color to the stems and the leaves. And this one looked like it would match really nicely with that sort of punchy clover color that we've got going on. Nice and fresh. And sometimes it can be a little bit tedious to add color to things that are so narrow. But if you just take your time and use the very tip of your marker, it usually works out okay. And there we go. And this little leafy over here. And then I'm even going to come in with the dark of the light. I love how it's light green, but we're using the dark. And I'm just going to do half of the leaf. I'm going to do a little bit under where the flower is, where it'll be kind of in shadow. You could even put a couple little dots along the stems just for some variation. Half the leaf, half this leaf, half this leaf, and maybe here where I did a kind of a not a great job with my stamping. All right, so that's all our coloring for that. And then we can go ahead and add this onto our floating layer. Just add some adhesive on there, and I just realized I have not looked at the comments for quite a while I was coloring. And, oh, somebody's saying nice nails. I'll have to scroll up to see who said that. Go, Kimberly. Hi, Kimberly. Nice nails. Thank you. Julia helped me with one hand. I did one hand and she helped me with the other. And yes, it's a really pretty stamp set, Lisa. I'm loving it. Could have turned the white piece. You're right, Karen. See, this is why I need you on here with me, because you know the tricks. Could have just turned the white piece over. Didn't have to cut a new one. That's all right. I'll use it again later. And then we need to add this to our little floating panel. So all we're going to do is we're going to take our liquid glue. We're going to add some glue to this top part here. We're not going to add any to the side over here, just the top one. And then we're going to take our little panel and we're going to try and line up the center on there and kind of close it. And as we close it, we can kind of see if it's centered from top to bottom. And it looks pretty good. And the point is nice and out like that. Now let's give a little look. Yep, looks good. And by doing it with it kind of closed, it automatically leaves that little hair of a gap that you need to make it fold down and close nicely. Whenever you're adding something right in a crease like that, you need to leave just that tiniest little bit of a gap. And you know what? When we've got our other pieces on here, you're not going to see that gap either. But isn't that a fun bit of dimension? You can see how far out. It's an inch out from the back. What a nice little floating panel that is. Okay, let's stick it down again so it has a chance to set the glue there. And then we're going to add 2 more of those diamond shapes. So we have 2 more pieces of Evergreen, and these are 1 7/8 square. And then we have 2 little white daisy squares, and these are 1 5/8. So 1 7/8, 1 5/8. And let's do some stamping on these as well. So this first one, let's bring in our handy dandy extra piece. There we go. Number 1, number 2. The first one, I want to stamp the little set of leaves here. This little duo of leaves. And I'm going to do that with the black ink, wherever I put it. Our intense black. So let's, and actually I'm going to swap these so I can have it close. Well, it doesn't matter. I don't know why I'm swapping it. They look exactly the same. They're just white daisy. Oh boy. And going to stamp these so that the leaf is on the square, but the stem is kind of going off to the side. And you probably can't see it because I went so close to myself. But there you go. That's what it looks like. So again, we're stamping it on the diamond shape. So we've got it set there like a diamond. And then on the second one, I want to stamp one of these, this medium-sized daisy. And I'm going to do that in the Flamingo ink. So this is really the only coordinating color that I have. So I thought I would take advantage of the fact that I do have this color. So let's ink up this medium-sized daisy and stick it in there on the center, hopefully. It's always nice to leave your stamp there for a minute to let the ink transfer to the paper. So there we go, our flamingo. And then I'm going to stamp the center of this flower using black again. The daisies that are on the pattern paper are actually more like ballerina and then flamingo in the center. But since I don't have ballerina, I did try it with second generation stamping, but it looked kind of odd. So I'm just going to stamp my center in black, the intense black ink like that. And then one more thing I want to stamp. I've still got everything here. I've got just a little scrappy bit of white daisy, and I've got the word wonderful here. This tiny little wonderful sentiment. I'm going to keep putting this away, and then pulling it back out. I should just pay attention and keep it out till I'm good and ready to be done with it. And we'll just stamp the word wonderful on there. There we go. Actually, you know what? I'm going to stamp that again. It's not as... Oh, I'm having such fun with my stamping tonight. Let's try that again. Much better. There we go. And for this, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring in my black, what is it called? True Black marker. And I'm going to use the chisel tip. And I'm just going to go around outside that stamped line and just add black. Oh, and I wandered. That's okay, I can wander. I did a much better job when I was practicing this. And there we go. So I've just made a thicker black line around, and then, oh yes, I really did wander. Let's fix the wander. It says wonderful, not wanderful. There we go. Now there's no weird gap. Okay, and then I'm going to fussy cut around this, and I'm just going to go like that, trim that off. So we're just doing nice straight trims, and it'll give us a nice wider black edge on there, like so. Lovely. Lovely. Okay, we want these two. We can say goodbye to this. We can go over there. And let's color our little leaves. So we're going to bring in the light green again. We're going to go for the mid. And hey, Carol. Oh, spectacular. Woohoo. Joanne says, so pretty and fresh. It sure is. And the combination of the clover green and the evergreen is just really pretty. I haven't used a lot of clover. There have been a few collections that have had touches of it, but I haven't done much with it, and I think I like it. I kept saying avocado was my favorite green, but clover is a very pretty green too. So just going to fill this in with the mid, like that, and then I'm going to quickly switch to the dark, and just on the lower side of the leaf, I'm just going to add some little brushes of the dark, like that. Just for a little variation, and it'll kind of blend together there all on its own. Okay, so we have this on the diagonal like this. We're going to attach it to our little diamond. We are almost done. Never fear, we are almost done. There is a tiny little bit more stamping that we need to do on the back panel, and then that's about it. So let's attach these together, hopefully centered, and then we'll put our little flower on here, and we're going to bring in this dark coral blend again, just like we did on the ones that we put on the inside. Just add some color to the center of that so it's not just black. And go ahead and adhere that like so. And stick it on like so. Like so and so and so. Let's bring in our card base. Now what we want to do with these diamonds is we want to decide which way we want them. So I want my leaves going like that. And then sometimes I have to play with my flower. Okay, I want my flower and my leaves like this. So I'm going to flip these both over. And I'm going to add adhesive just to the left side. And I realize I'm way down here and you can't see what I'm doing. So just adding adhesive to the left side of both of these, like that. There we go. And what we want to do is we want to line up the top point of our little diamond with the top of the pattern paper, but we want the points of it right against that pink edge. So we're going to go to the top of the pattern paper, but not pointing at the pattern paper, pointing right at that pink cardstock, just like that. And then we'll bring in this other one. And stick this down here so that point lines up and that point lines up like that. And actually this one is a little bit down from where I actually want it. We're going to fix it. We're fixing it, Karen. We're not going to leave it. We're not going to say good enough. We're going to fix it. And there we go. Like that. Isn't that pretty? Now this little wonderful, we're going to add some foam tape to the back of this. Like so. And this is the thin 3D foam tape, and it's the narrower one. So it fits just nicely on there, and we're going to kind of center this on our leafy diamond like that. Wonderful. And then I think we need some bling on here as well. So I've got some clear sparkles. Let me grab my piercing tool. Let's add a couple of blings to our layer on the inside, like so. And then we'll add maybe one here on the edge of our flower center to kind of jazz it up. It looks a little dark with that black that we used. And then we'll add a couple up here. And that'll be good because now we have 5, so it's an odd number. And then we want to flip it over because we need a spot to write. So for our back, we have a panel of white daisy that is 4 inches by 5 1/4. So we didn't go for all those weird 8s and 7/8 and stuff. We just went for easy, 4 by 5 1/4. Gonna bring in my mat, and what I want to do is I want to add just a little bit of stamping on the back. So we've got our Flamingo ink again. We're gonna just repeat that little flower on the inside. Let me move it up so you can see. We'll add our little flower down here like this. And that's using the Flamingo. And then we're going to bring in the black to add the center. Where's the little center? There's the center of the flower. Now I'm going to have to line this up a bit. Pardon me as I stick my head in the way. Ooh, a little off, but that's okay. We'll fix it up with the marker. The wonderful world of markers. And then I don't have Evergreen or Clover, but this is on the back of the card, so there's no reference to color back here. So I thought I'll just use my retired New England ivy because, what is the saying? Use what you have. And I've got this little leafy cluster that's from the stamp set as well. This little number down here. And we're going to just add a little bit of leafy goodness with our New England ivy. And try not to stamp too... Oh, gosh. My head is too far away. Try not to stamp too much on my flower. Like that and that. Just to add a little bit of green and pink back there. And then we can go ahead and attach that to our card after we add a little bit of color in the center of our flower. Just like that. And because we have this little weird gap over here, we can just kind of extend the center of our flower and fill that in. That is quite all right. We're just going to kind of smoosh it over. Smoosh it over so that it fits. And grab our adhesive. We can add this to the back panel so we have a lovely space to write. Now, you could add some pattern paper to the back of the Z fold part of the card. If that bothers you, I'm just going to leave it the pretty pink because it's mostly the front that you're going to be looking at, right? So there is our nice back panel stamped up. So here we have started our card with a card base of Flamingo, and we created that iconic Z fold shape. Then we added in our gorgeous daisy paper with that beautiful crisp fresh green color. And then we added in our little mechanism here to create this layered panel and popped in our diamond that we trimmed the corner off. and stamped up with those beautiful daisies, colored with our markers. Then 2 more diamonds on front. I love how this makes that sort of diamond, diamond, diamond. Diamonds are a girl's best friend. And then we've got our wonderful popped up with some foam tape, a little bit of ink, a little bit of coloring, and a few little sparkles, because life is better with sparkles. I love the amount of separation that this creates and dimension. It's just so pretty. And then, of course, a beautiful big panel on the back to write your message. How lovely is that? And, of course, it stands up nicely and looks so pretty when it's standing up. I'll put it this way so you can get the idea from above. And I hope you guys enjoyed seeing that floating layer Z-fold card come together in this beautiful daisy collection. So be sure to check that out on the promotions page on the website. And again, if you want the bundles or the thin cuts, you're going to have to do a pre-order. And so I'm going to post a little bit more information about that so you know about it. Alrighty, have a wonderful evening, and we will see you again soon. Toodaloo, bye.